Today on Doomed! Who trolls the right-wing trolls? Well, today on Doomed, we will talk to that guy. The guy who trolls the alt-right trolls on the internet. Folks, Nathan Bernard of bernardmedia.org will be joining us. Very excited to have him on the show. We will be talking about all the alt-right figures that he's been really laser focused on for must be, how long now? Let me pull us up so everyone can see us talking. There we go. Perfect timing. Hey, Nathan.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
So, Nathan, who are your main, before we really get into this, I want to make sure I got all the main guys down, the cast of characters down. Who are the main alt-right figures that you go after?
I guess Cernovich, Bumble Jack, Laura Loomer. Baked Alaska was an initial one. We made a website called Milk Leaks, Vic and I did, where we stored a lot of his kind of cringeworthy clips. Now Ben Shapiro and Dave Rubin, even though I wouldn't really call them alt-right, they've kind of fallen into the mix with the people that we've covered. We've done some stuff with Richard Spencer, but it runs the gambit. So like anyone from the far right, that are really neo-Nazis, which is like a Spencer, into the more, I guess you could call them conservative at this point, more moderate Ben Shapiro's and the Dave Rubins of the world. So anyone that has a cringy stuff is who we go after. So this is it's a wealth of content.
Right. And let's move back now that we have the cast of characters down. We'll get back to them all very shortly. We actually have met before in person. We are acquaintances in the in the offline world. And I was glad to see it brought up actually in this great Rolling Stone piece that you were profiled by Rolling Stone magazine. Andrew Paul just wrote this great feature on you. Also mentioning Vic Berger, because at this point you two guys are really a tag team when it comes to these, the alt-right fears, the brothers of destruction, that is the Undertaker and Kane, Vic Berger and Nathan Bernard.
That's very nice of you.
Yeah, there we go. And always got to fit in the pro wrestling reference. People who listen to the show know I'm always going to do that. So let's talk about how I know you from, how I first met you, which is mentioned in the Rolling Stone piece.
Yep.
You were doing something very cool, very early on in this whole crazy world we live in ever since Donald Trump decided on that fateful June day in 2015 to jump into the 2016 election race for president. You've been doing something very cool on Twitter then, and that's how I met you. Let's talk about that, because I feel like that really begins the Bernard Media operation.
Yeah, that was cool. I was wondering if you remembered that also from the cafe days.
Right.
So,
absolutely. How could I would forget a face like yours, Nathan? Come on.
Yeah. Well, at the time, so like the mobile feed for Twitter was such that if Donald Trump replied and you were the first to reply to Donald Trump, everything was chronological. So I had made a bot that would auto-reply to Donald Trump, and you could queue up content. It could be multimedia content, so it could be a link, it could be a picture, it could be a video. So I saw some alt-right trolls, essentially some neo-Nazi trolls doing it, made a faster bot, and, would mostly reply with like Vic Berger videos, Todd Dracula. Todd Dracula, he worked at Cafe for a while?
Yeah, Todd was a coworker of mine at Cafe. Yep.
Yeah, so we would send some of his stuff. And I made a podcast it was called Who is Neil? So it was finding out who these people were that were actually doing the auto-replying. So I guess that was the first dip into just the alt-right world. It came from a tech angle, but, fell into just this kind of wormhole of stuff, which, you're into, and there's a whole subculture of people that kind of follow it. So that was the start. That's how I got started working with Vic. But yeah, I guess that's kind of the start to it.
So basically, when you were doing this, people would go to Donald Trump's Twitter, click a tweet, and it was amazing that there was like one that was like the Trump train that basically had like Pepe the Frog.
Patriotic Pepe.
There we go. Yeah. And his avatar was like Pepe the Frog in like a conductor's uniform in the front of like a steam engine.
Yeah.
And for a long time, that's the first thing you would see, first reply you'd see under Trump. And then you came along with this great program, and we're pushing, like you said, burger stuff.
It wasn't a huge program. I mean, when we started working with you guys, I'm not sure if we had the app yet quite like built, but the script itself honestly took like 4 hours to build. It wasn't like a huge application or anything.
Right.
It was just, you see a tweet happen, that's the event. You reply with whatever you want. You have a queue of content that's kind of lined up. But yeah, Patriotic Pepe, Neil Turner.
Right, I forgot about him.
Of course. I mean, all that stuff just came out on Ricky Vaughn, who his actual identity was. So he was kind of in that crowd of people that we would troll and kind of fight with. And I remember meeting with you guys at Cafe, and I was like, oh, yeah, you guys know Ricky Vaughn? All these people? And I was like, oh, yeah, people actually know Ricky Vaughn and everything. So he was another one. This guy, Jason Bergkamp, was another account that was there. And then this guy, White Genocide TM, who was in a bunch of the FBI hearings and everything that they would talk about for Twitter, because they started talking more seriously about Twitter being a recruiting tool for these white nationalists. So, started talking to all those dudes in the DMs and made a podcast about it. Would modulate my voice also to play the different characters. So I didn't take myself super seriously or anything like that. So it was like an investigation, kind of like how Bernard Media does some investigations.
Right.
But yeah, that was the start of it. And it was getting, hundreds of millions of views from piggybacking off the Trump stuff, which is just nuts. But yeah, that was the beginning for sure.
Now, how did you beat these guys at getting under the Trump tweets? You were, like we were talking about, these guys pretty much had the platform, and it was all them under Trump all the time. And then you come along and they couldn't compete.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, maybe it was using some like more modern technologies or something, but I think a lot of it was just, let's say, I'm sure they had a queue of content also, and they were doing some really basic semantic analysis. So if, for instance, Donald Trump said something like, let's get the voters out in, Minnesota or something, or let's get the voters out in Mississippi. And they definitely had a list of keywords that would say, okay, if he says any of the different states in the United States, we're going to send an auto tweet that just says text of, oh, we love the people in this state. I can't wait for them to vote for Trump. So they had a little bit of that stuff going on. So then maybe it slowed it down a little bit because we were just serving up content.
Right.
And the goal, we would have to keep it topical and everything that was going on. So if there was a trend going on, then we would put some more topical stuff in there. We would recycle out the different, Vic Berger Vines when Vine was still just integrated into Twitter. But yeah, it was probably just, I couldn't say what made it faster, honestly. Maybe modern technology, but let's see. I don't know.
So let's go from where this eventually brings us. And that's, you get really involved with certain figures. And would you say that from what I think I've seen, going back and trying to remember, piecing where I saw everything chronologically, two of the first guys I think you really decided to focus on in this new effort that was not just, getting to be the first reply to some major right-wing Twitter figureheads, was Mike Cernovich. And this guy seems to have disappeared off the face of the planet, which sort of shows you the power of getting someone banned from a platform like Twitter. Baked Alaska.
Yeah. Well, you remember all this. Do you remember all the stuff that happened with Vic and Cernovich? That was like in January. I guess that was January 2016.
Oh, right. I was speaking to him about that because I reached out to him because I had dealt with Cernovich before. Like we were talking right before the show, in 2014, people who listen to the show probably know, but just in case anyone isn't familiar, 2014, Mike Cernovich put himself out there for the first time as this public figure. Previously, he was just some law blogger. That's what he was mainly known as. His blog was like crime and federal crime, whatever it was.
Yeah, crime and federalism.
Something like, yeah. Thank you. I think that was it. I probably have screenshots all over my computer. I just gotta find some of that stuff on there.
Stuff. You read a bunch of the blogs, didn't you?
Yes, and I pulled stuff out of there, like the time he one right off the top of my head that I'll always remember. Remember, this is the guy who just got James Gunn fired from Guardians of the Galaxy for some old 2010 edgy tweets about stupid, silly stuff about jokes about little boys and stuff like that. Clearly jokes. Clearly this guy's not a pedophile. Guy was a trauma director, before becoming, before changing over the years and becoming a Disney Marvel director. I mean, first of all, no one who is a pedophile comes out and says they're a pedophile. I mean, the idea that there would be old tweets that you can find where someone's like, "Oh no, I forgot I previously came out as a pedophile," is absurd.
He's the joke police now.
Right. Exactly what these guys hated about social justice warriors just a few years ago. But so in this one blog post, just at the top of my head that I'll never forget, he is whining and complaining that one of his clients is going to prison for like a year or a few months, like a slap on the wrist, really, for having sex multiple times with a 15-year-old. This guy was 28.
Oh, Jesus.
He claims, and allegedly, she presented herself as older. I don't know how much older a 15-year-old could present themselves to a 28-year-old and seem on the up and up.
Yeah, I think you're savvy enough at that point.
Yeah. If he was like 21, maybe I could be like, he was immature for his age and was really like a 19-year-old, and maybe she was mature. Still wrong, obviously, but 28 years old, come on.
Exactly.
And he's complaining about it. And this is a guy who's basically put his stake in calling people out for being pedophiles. That's his new claim. That's his new claim to fame.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, well, so the stuff that he did to Vic was that same smear, right? Like, in the blog posts, I remember he'd talked a bunch about rape and everything. I hadn't read that the pedo post that you're talking about, but it makes sense. Because, I mean, Vic had made a couple of videos that were just kind of slapstick videos where he's doing breathing exercises and he's just slapping his hands in front of his face and he's, pretending to be a gorilla or whatever he's doing. And Vic just puts like farting noises under the video. So it's slapstick stuff. It's comedy. It's not trying to, make any political point. It's not an attack or anything. It's a joke, right?
Right.
These guys loving free speech so much, I guess, can't take, Cernovich can't take the jokes and everything. He decides that he's going to start smearing Vic as a pedophile ringleader.
I remember that.
He's careful in all of his wording of smearing Vic that he never says that Vic is a pedophile. He says that he associates with pedophiles and that it seems like Vic might be at the center of this pedophile ring because it's all about like plausible deniability with these people. Like, he always wants to be able to say, he's a lawyer. He's not a stupid person or anything. He thinks these smears through. So he wants to make sure if anything ever happens, if he gets hit with libel or something, that he can say, well, I never actually said Vic was a pedophile, right? So, all that goes on, and I had seen that happening because Vic, is a friend.
Which I should probably interrupt you for a second and just say that I never said that in recounting that story. Never made the claim. And how weird it is that this guy who's so addicted to calling other people pedophiles has a history of defending people who have had sex with minors before. No way would I ever call that guy a pedophile. It's just that he defends pedophiles. It seems he seems to be at the center of many people who happen to be pedophiles or engage in sex with minors. It's just saying that, not claiming anything, just really, really bizarre. But continue, please.
Exactly. So that's kind of what happens. And, Vic, so Vic is like a friend, obviously, at this point, because we had done the Trump trolling and stuff during the election, and I had gotten close with him. I had met up with him in Todd in person. Actually, Vic and I, coincidentally, are from the same hometown in Pennsylvania. We met online, but from the same hometown. And the same hometown as Tim Heidecker, actually, which is, do you know, like, Allentown, Bethlehem Steel, like that whole area?
Right.
Yeah, so it's a bunch of like old steel mills and coal mines that are out of their prime, essentially at this point. So I mean, I saw this happening, and like I'd seen Cernovich during the election some and everything, but he was kind of on the periphery of that whole kind of neo-Nazi group because towards the end of the election, he had started kind of moving away from the people that classified them more as alt-right because that whole Salute thing happened where Richard Spencer had gone down and kind of, given the Nazi salute after Trump won. It was like, Hail Trump. And even before that, there was the Deplorable where he said, Baked Alaska and all these guys, you can't come to the Deplorable because you've been putting out these memes that had Laura Loomer in a gas chamber. So he had been trying to seem like the good guy, essentially, right? Which is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a tactic that a lot of these people use where there's so many ridiculous people, not to go off point, but it's like, Ben Shapiro can make himself seem legitimate because he can say, I'm not going to associate with Alex Jones, right? But no one will associate with Alex Jones. And really, they have somewhat similarly far-right beliefs, but you can legitimize yourself by just saying this person is so crazy that I'd never associate with a conspiracy theorist. So Cernovich kind of had started to do that, and I'd seen the thing that happened to Vic. So I made a podcast where I just started profiling some of these different alt-right characters and some of these really like propagandists, and it was more so I was just interested in them, and initially just Cernovich because I wanted to learn about who they were as people and how the hell do you get to a point in your life where your life is that you're smearing people as pedophiles, right? And Vic was worried about this stuff. People were sending Vic death threats. They were saying that they're going to poke his eyes out with forks, and he was getting death threats around the clock. He has kids, 2 young kids, so it was just a mess.
Right. No, right? These guys know that there's, you could make the claim that someone is anything, but nothing will stick. Nothing will be as powerful as making the claim that someone's a pedophile. It is probably, and rightfully so, I mean, the worst possible type of person. And, if you are able to just call someone a pedophile and just keep saying it, there'll be people who you gaslit. You'll gaslight these people, and then they'll start claiming it. And then people who are a degree away from Cernovich, who don't know who Cernovich is, sees people who they might know calling him a pedophile. And then it continues on and on and on, like it's a game of telephone, where the original guy who spread this lie, who spread this falsity, is so divorced from the story that no one knows where it came from. It must be true. It's so many people are saying it. That's like the game they play with this whole pedophilia thing.
Exactly, and it's one of those things where, and this, will be noted, I guess, when we start talking about Bernard Media and just how I started thinking about this stuff. I guess how Vic and I started thinking about this stuff was that, a part of the problem with the pedophilia accusation is that even if you say you're not a pedophile, you're still talking about it, and now you're protesting that you're not a pedophile, right? So he was putting out stupid stuff like, oh, the Viner doth protest too much, that you're not a pedophile. So there's no winning way about it. You're still talking about being a pedophile, right?
Right.
So, I mean, those sort of smears, I mean, they're disgusting, but they're effective. And it was just, I don't know. So that it caught my interest of everything. And like I said, I started making some podcasts, just kind of profiling them. And I would, take old audio clips of Cernovich and then people like Milo. I did one on Tommy Lahren, did one on even like Steve Bannon and stuff like that are, bigger figures, just to kind of piece together their lives and kind of see, like exactly like how the hell did he get to this point in his life. And that's when I remember when some of this stuff started happening, Vic started sending me some of your stuff that you had done way back for Cernovich because you had a lot of it archived. You had archived a lot of these links. And, he started becoming into the public eye a little bit more over the course of, I guess it was 2017. So, yeah, that was, I guess, the next kind of iteration of things. But Cernovich was the first group of, he was the first target, I suppose.
Right. I really regret, when Cernovich re-emerged after Gamergate as a right wing, I sort of saw the play he was making, and I thought, if we ignore him at this point, he's already got this, the Gamergate's already dying down. I did not think he was gonna successfully make the play, make the move over. I thought he would be too even volatile for that world. Simply, not even because of the old tweets, because I knew right wingers are misogynist and sexist. That's no surprise. I actually thought the whole video game thing would have been more toxic to that world. Him having that whole thing on him, where they would have been like, I don't want to associate with some weirdo who hung out with video gamers. Like that was literally what my thought process was. So I was like, this guy's gonna not. And then I was, when it came to that, so many things I'm right about. And then this one thing I think I got it completely wrong. But
you were early on that stuff, though. You were early on that stuff.
Yeah.
Like Gamergate was like, I didn't honestly get really active on Twitter until about 2.5 years ago, I would say. So that was a little bit before when I was really active on Twitter. But something that I've seen since I've been on Twitter, and maybe it's like my naivete of just being on Twitter for, this amount of time. But when there's investigations where people can get involved and kind of dig up old stuff, or they feel like they're a researcher for you and they're kind of part of a story. It's like one of those interactive stories that you're kind of going through, and they can be a part of that. That's a way that you can build a base really large. And if you have a conspiracy like a Pizzagate, and now, you have the QAnon stuff that could be, a derivative kind of all this Pizzagate nonsense. But it's like, if you can go deep enough, and it can really go anywhere with it of just, we're looking for keywords like pizza and maps and walnuts and, extra sauce, and you're just looking for obscure ridiculousness in these huge troves of emails that, Cernovich is not going to spend his time going through those. He's too lazy. Like, he won't look through that stuff, but he'll have all of his fans start going through that, and thus they play an important role. And they're like, maybe one day I'll put together a collage of all the times it says walnut pizza, and he's going to retweet it, and then it's going to be seen by 1,000 people, right? And it's worth it then, and then I'm going to do it again, right? So that's something that I've seen Cernovich is good at, and a lot of these guys are good at. Jack Posobiec is good at it. Laura Loomer is good at it. They're all investigators, right? They're all just some journalism,
right?
But so I guess
Laura Loomer is on to that MGM Vegas shooting. She's gonna uncover the real story behind that, obviously.
Yeah, her and Jack Posobiec are like in a race to the bottom, basically, of who's gonna get sued for libel first. In that point, because they're like trying to steal each other's stories and whatnot. It's a mess.
Right. I was talking to Will Summer. Was it an episode or two ago? Either an episode or 2 episodes ago. Time just it's all just a blur now. So I was talking to him, and he was telling me how the two are. We're running down the latest conspiracies that he's been covering, and the two of them seem to be in a feud over who's the original crazy conspiracy theorist when it comes to the Vegas shooting.
Yeah, it's like, what a fucking pathetic life, honestly. It's just like, you're just digging up these pointless conspiracies. To what end? Part of the thing that I've always thought about is also they're just kind of scenesters. They're not, and part of the reason why I never see it is kind of doing something political with these people of covering them. And I can tell a little bit more about the timeline of Cernovich and how it got into Baked Alaska, but it's like, they're just kind of scenesters that pop in and want to be media personalities and everything. So, all this stuff, whenever I talk to Vic or whenever we do this stuff, we always say it's not a political thing. Right, a lot of it is entertainment and comedy that these people are unintentionally funny because they're just so bad at what they do in the first place. But they also don't hold any ideology. So it's kind of, to what end are you even doing and creating this chaos and trying to, mess up just the democracy that we have? To what end, right?
Right. It's a great grift.
It is a great grift, for sure.
Sometimes I got to tell you, like, if I'm, feeling a little down in the dumps and I come across one of their Patreons or one of their, PayPal, whatever they use nowadays to raise money, because they're always getting banned from something.
Oh, yeah.
But, they always, their followers always manage to find the new place to donate. And it's always shocking to me. It always makes me, just a little bit sad, a little bit of gray cloud, rain cloud over my head when I see just how much these guys are making from doing this.
Yeah, they're smart with it. And the Patreon guy, the founder of Patreon, Jack Conte, who used to be, he used to be a YouTuber that would make music and everything. He's definitely tight with the Rubens of the world and everything, just because he wants to be somewhere in the middle. And a lot of these tech people, they want to see themselves as centrists, and they're obviously capitalists, right?
Right.
It's a huge part of the tech culture, and I know that from being in tech culture and everything. But it's
libertarianism is really big in the tech world.
Yeah, it is.
They love socially very liberal, but when it comes to our money and our freedoms, whatever they may be, whatever they're talking about, it's like the Wild West. It's all theirs.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I have very conflicting views on just the tech world and everything from being a part of it, and I don't know. That's conversation for another time almost. But yeah. So I mean, like these people, I don't think like they'll ever get banned from a Patreon or something. Cernovich, I think now makes about $4,500 on his Patreon. Laura Loomer probably makes about 1,000. Jack Posobiec, I don't think is that active on it, but obviously the Dave Rubins and the Petersons of the world are making tens of thousands of dollars. So they have outlets to do this stuff, and so I guess that kind of leads into is that after all this stuff happened with Vic, it started to become pretty self-evident that they weren't going to go anywhere. And when I really started collaborating with Vic, I don't know, we had started talking more just over Twitter. I'd started posting some more stuff. I made a short documentary about like Cernovich's fake rape case and stuff. So had kept kind of dabbling just around, more so just to learn about these people and what they were doing. And that led to now, wow, God, it's been like a year. But about a year ago, I built these websites with Vic because Cernovich had made this website called McMaster Leaks, where he was going to put up all his damning stuff of McMaster just to catch some trend. It was a fucking horrible website. It was just total garbage. But Vic messaged me. He's like, "Oh my God, we should make we should make like a Cernovich Leaks, or we should make something that kind of mimics what this looks like, but put Cernovich's stuff on that." And we had this huge library of videos that Vic had made at this point, and I had made a couple of them, but we had tons and tons of clips, essentially, of Cernovich. So we started just loading them up onto the website, Cernovich Leaks, and would put up, like I would write funny titles for them, and we had the cool videos and everything. And the idea was that, if we archived all these things in one place, Twitter is almost ephemeral in how this content happens. It'll be viral one day, a video, and then it can just disappear the next day, right? But if you store it all in one place as a thing like Cernovich Leaks or something, and you can distribute the leaks and you can submit leaks to us, right? Go through found footage, find leaks, then hopefully it doesn't disappear. And hopefully people know that when Cernovich is back in the news, you have a place to go to where all that content is going to be there, and the most damning stuff is going to be there, and hopefully it's entertaining and funny, some of it. Some of it is just disgusting, right? But some of it, it was like one of them is Mike screws the pooch on InfoWars, and it's just that clip of him that I think Majority Report initially found where Alex Jones is talking, and he's talking about Rahm Emanuel, and Cernovich comes in and kind of starts talking over him. It's just really bad, basically. The whole idea is like he's so bad when he has to interact with anybody else because he's not just in his own kind of world, just ranting.
Alex Jones actually looks annoyed at him in that clip. Yeah, Alex Jones looks like literally like he looks like he's having an inner monologue where he's like, I've made a huge mistake inviting this guy on my show. Never again. And now listen, when you have Alex Jones stopping, like you see Alex Jones' face, when you have a guy like Alex Jones thinking to himself, this guy's crazy. I mean, you must be off your rocker, because if Alex Jones is looking at you and saying, this guy's bad for business, then I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you fuck up your audition on InfoWars, like, dude, I don't know what you got. Like, I don't know what's next for you, basically.
When's even the last time? Has it, Mike? Like, I do believe, if I recall correctly, that Cernovich did go on InfoWars a few more times after, but it must be many, many months, if not a year now, at least, since he's been on InfoWars. I mean, I haven't seen any clips of him on there coming out in recent memory.
He went on. I was really surprised. So I said this. So I mean, Alex Jones tried him out a couple of times, and we put all those clips on Cernovich Leaks. So I guess if people want to go see that, you can go to Cernovich Leaks. There's definitely a bunch of stuff with Alex Jones. So if you search like InfoWars on something on there, you'll see him just botching it. But he bombs, right? Like, he bombs every time that he would have him on. He gave him a couple of runs too. Like, another run was, it was somewhere around the New Year, and they had glasses of champagne out. And these are the sort of videos, they're just like funny, right? And so Andrew Torba from Gab is on there also, and he's talking with Alex Jones, and Cernovich just knocks over his glass of champagne, and Vic edits it so that it's like a louder crash and like a spill, right? And it's like water or something that they have ultimately, but he just spills it, and it's like, dude, man, you can't do anything right, basically. So I mean, after that, I think they pretty much nixed him, because it was like, man, this guy is a disaster.
Listen,
just a couple weeks ago, I saw him though.
Oh, really?
Coincidentally, I hadn't seen him for months. I thought he was done. I thought he was nixed totally. He popped back on. What was he talking I remember. I'll send you the clip after this. But he was on recently, and I bet you he's going to come on and do a whole apology tour and stuff about this James Gunn stuff after, like his campaign against comedians or whatever. But yeah, I saw him on recently. I was like, what the hell is this? He's back on here.
Right. Yeah, I mean, listen, you could say what you want about Alex Jones, but when you take Alex Jones and compare him to some of these guys we're talking about, it's clear as day that Alex Jones, as crazy and insane and terrible of a person he is, as an entertainer, as a media figure, he's really good at what he does. It's almost like tragic, actually, that like a guy like that who's so good on camera and entertaining as hell didn't fall somewhere that was for the good, or at least a harmless entertainment. Not only for people as a whole, but even for the issues going on with his whole family. Like, his kids and his, it's horrible. This guy could have made a different play and probably been successful. Probably wouldn't have been as easy because, like we were talking about, the right-wing grift is the easiest thing on the planet to make money off of. But when it comes to, put Jones next to Cernovich, Jones next to Posebiec, Loomer, any of these people, it's like, Alex Jones is likable compared to these guys.
He has charisma. I mean, he's a performer, right? Like he is, regardless, like you're saying, I would never say, oh, Alex Jones, he's a great person to go to as a trustworthy news source, and you're going to really glean some meaningful information from him, or you're going to get a great insight. I don't know. But hey, he's a performer, and he's been doing it for a very long time. And I'll say this much. I was talking about this yesterday with somebody, how a lot of these people, Jones specifically, before YouTube was a platform and everything, I mean, Jones he was coming up, and he could have gotten a nationally syndicated show, but the stuff that he was talking about isn't a fit to be nationally syndicated, or it wasn't at that time, past just his little kind of bubble that he had in Texas where he had his initial show on like public access and everything. And so, I mean, to do and talk about what he wanted to, because, he is a libertarian ultimately, which is he loves free speech, and he wanted to be able to say whatever he wanted to say. So he made a very early bet on putting all of his content on the internet. He had his own website. He didn't have to deal with anybody else. He didn't have to give money to anybody else. He could take it all for himself. Obviously, that's now, that was a good move when all these other platforms came on. So when YouTube was there, obviously he was going right to YouTube. There's no restrictions there. They want the plays. They want creators on their platform, especially early. So, I mean, him, Paul Joseph Watson, they were smart with that stuff.
Right.
They pay dividends now, obviously.
I mean, they could have easily been talking about, the classic, alien conspiracies and how, there's extraterrestrials in the pyramids in Egypt and that bullshit. But, they wanted to, I don't know if that's exactly what they were talking about, but early on, at least Alex Jones was more like one of those conspiracy theory guys, like that type of conspiracy theory guy. I mean, he talked about politics, but he wasn't like a school shooting truther right off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I watched his Waco documentary as much as I could get through it, at least. So, I mean, and even that stuff, it was all about government intervention and the deep state coming in and killing Koresh and whatnot, and that, it was planned out that they were firing off and killing the children. And it was still the deep state kind of angle, but that wasn't, like you said, that wasn't consuming him, right? And there was some turn.
Right. And also, like, Waco conspiracies have been around since, it's almost like a mainstream conspiracy. Like, completely, people who you'd think are completely sane for most things have those, like, one or two old classic conspiracy theories on an event like Waco. And it's just like, oh, that's just like, I guess what some people believe because of the time and the way the news media was at the time, and no internet to really, say this stuff is bullshit, so it festered and then just became part of like the lore of these events. But like, Sandy Hook, it's just ridiculous that you would think that it's in any way, shape, and like harmful too. It's not like an event like, like you're looking back at it like 10 years ago, this a Waco type event happened, and you're looking at it very many years removed or something. Mm-hmm. Like the people are literally were literally like the bodies of these kids were literally on the ground, and these guys were coming out with their YouTube videos saying they're actors, it's all bullshit.
Yeah, it's a mess. I mean, And I guess that's good. I guess, like those people, and, now actually Mark Randazza, who used to be Cernovich's lawyer, is now representing Alex Jones in all those defamation suits. But I mean, I guess kind of like to the leak stuff and like the Vic stuff and everything, those aren't, I mean, like Cernovich initially is also funny because you can create stuff that is like funny about Cernovich and you can create stuff that is funny about Alex Jones. They are unintentionally funny and they create so much content because they are doing these live shows constantly that they'll inherently, regardless of how talented Jones is about just being on the radio for hours and hours every day, something ridiculous he's going to say or something funny is going to pop up, hopefully. And I guess that was like, segue into like the next thing was like the Baked Alaska stuff and everything.
Milk leaks.
So the Milk Leaks came out after we made Cernovich Leaks. Milk Leaks was kind of the next site that we moved on to because it worked like really well for the Cernovich stuff. It was getting a ton of traction on the website. We were getting about, I don't know, probably like 50,000 uniques a month, which is not bad. We weren't pushing it. It was just kind of people just organically sharing it. And so we made Milk Leaks because Baked Alaska, the Charlottesville stuff happens. He faked maced himself or whatever, and the whole milk incident happened. And so Vic had started making some edits about him, and there is just a wealth of cringe footage online of him just going out and filming himself doing the IRL type of streams and everything with all these neo-Nazis, and he was just really bad at it. Right. Cernovich had his own kind of niche of people where he could just shout into a camera and I guess at least be engaged. I don't know what the audience is for that, but they were at least engaged around the Pizzagate stuff, so there was some kind of hook there. Bake just was horrible. Like, he was just really bad at doing what he was trying to do. And, there is so many clips from him going out, getting like a bloody tampon thrown at his face, him fake macing himself, him meeting a girl at a bar and, just live streaming it and just being the most cringy interaction, talking about like fucking her in all three holes and stuff, and her just being like, oh, it's so good. Dude, I mean, just the worst stuff you can imagine. And so he's like, and eventually the chick just leaves. Like, it's like, I forget the name of how we named it. It was like Baked Alaska meets a girl, like creeps her out, and she like ditches him or something. It was just like, so he does stuff like that where just makes a fool of himself. Just totally cringy content. So it was the same sort of idea of we could put all this content in one place. If people wanted to see Bake's, worst self-owns, essentially, they could come to Milk Leaks. And Milk Leaks because of, pouring milk on his face and everything. And yeah, that worked really, really well. And I guess the press then at that point started kind of using these leak sites as places that they would link to. Like SPLC started linking to it for Cernovich leaks and everything. AV Club started using it for just like different, because they like doing more cultural stuff. So they started doing that for kind of like making fun of Baked and everything. So we started seeing that happening too. Like people sharing it on Twitter whenever someone would bring up Baked or Cernovich to say, oh, have you seen this clip? And then they would link this. And so we just kind of thought that they were useful tools, and past that they were funny and hopefully entertaining for people, especially the Baked stuff, because Baked is a different sort of character where, you know about him. He used to work for BuzzFeed and now, is some, I don't know where he's at now. I hope he's alive. I hope he's doing well, but he's kind of given up, I guess, on just kind of doing media stuff for the time being and just kind of taking some time kind of to himself to like get his head straight.
He got banned from Twitter, from YouTube. I mean, when you get banned, listen, anyone who wants to tell me that, these guys being on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube isn't a problem, they'll find another place. I mean, no. I mean, look at Baked Alaska.
Exactly.
He got banned from these places for being a terrible person, for doing terrible things, and he's dropped off the face of the planet. I mean, even to some extent, Milo Yiannopoulos. When he was on Twitter, he was a force to be reckoned with in this whole world, and he got banned from Twitter. Sure, he's created his little media organization on Facebook because he hasn't done anything that broke Facebook's terms yet, I guess. But yeah. Without being in the conversations going on Twitter, where the entire political and media and news world lives, he's practically dropped off the face of the planet. I mean, you'll see him in the news every now and then, but it's usually a piece of news about how he's losing some funding because he's not the character he used to be.
Yep. I mean, I don't know, like. So, I mean, the Baked stuff, Baked's got bans, and we have to think that we played some role in that, because Vic's videos were getting around on Twitter.
What was What, what was it that I'm sorry. What was it that that Baked Alaska did that got him banned? That, for example, wasn't something that like a Cernovich or a Posebiec, I can't remember what it was.
Well, I don't think it was anything in particular. So I mean, here's what I would say is that I think it was easier to get a baked band than it could be to get a Cernovich or to get a Pasavic band. Even though Cernovich has a lot of parallels to kind of a Milo, how they kind of turn their swarms on people, but baked could be bunched into the group of neo-Nazis and everything. And I think just because there was so much press around that time of when they were doing the great Twitter purge where they were going to get rid of all these Nazi accounts, that was something that Twitter was really focused on. And in that same sweep, we had been doing a lot of stuff, putting out the videos, and people had been covering Baked Alaska in the press like crazy. So he was getting a lot of attention on him. And honestly, I think he was just an easy target. And you could say that he was a neo-Nazi because he went to Charlottesville. He was on, the billing for the Charlottesville Unite the Right rally. And it's just someone easy that you can get rid of. And what is he going to do? I mean, he's a total buffoon. Like, he's not going to come back. He's not smart enough to really, get anybody together. He doesn't have a big enough base that he's going to make a dent. He's not like a serious white nationalist ideologue that is really preaching things like the ethno-state. He just kind of jumped on with Richard Spencer and these people to get clicks, right? And I think that more so than anything, Twitter isn't super in tune with who the real influencers are on their platform. So they see this guy getting a ton of press, right? They see that he has 200,000 followers. They see that he's associated with all these accounts, and they say, well, let's get rid of this guy, because then they're going to write a bunch of articles, and all this stuff is going to happen. So I think just that association was really the easier part. I don't think it was necessarily to do that, like his actions warranted to get a ban, frankly. And his stream after he got banned was that's a classic. For anybody that hasn't seen it, just go watch Vic's edit of it. Baked Alaska has a breakdown in Burger Joint parking lot. That's it's a classic one for sure.
Wasn't it like 9 hours?
Yeah, it was really sad, too, because it was his 30th birthday. So Vic and I were kind of celebrating, and we watched the stream. We were watching the stream, and I remember, deep into the stream, this is past the In-N-Out, burger parking lot. He's in his apartment with that guy, Antonio Freeman, who is he's kind of his bodyguard or his lackey, the guy Tony. And he turns 30 on the live stream. And, there's probably like 25 people watching, 2 of which are Vic and I. And he's in his closet, and they pour these whiskey shots, and they take the whiskey shots together, and Tony's like, happy 30th, bro. And Bake just looks at the camera, and like his face just kind of flinches like he's about to cry and stuff. Like he's about to break down, because it's all just kind of crashing down on him. Like, he just got banned from Twitter. That was his baby. He was building that. He was, breaking down the entire day. Like, he just turned 30. And for whatever that age means, it's some sort of turning point in your life, moving into a new decade of your life. It has some significance, and you can't help but think he's just thinking about, like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I'm not a neo-Nazi. I'm not like.
Yeah, he's not one of the true believers. Exactly. He's not even. I think you said it, but just to make it clear, I don't think the guy cares about politics or has an ideology or anything whatsoever. Which is so weird, because if you're like, look at what's his face, that guy from YouTube who used to be on Disney with Logan Paul or Jake whatever.
Oh yeah, Jake Paul.
Yeah, like that's the play you make if you're just one of these assholes. Like, if you're just a jock, like an old jock, like a cliche high school jock asshole. Like, you do prank videos. You do things that the jocks in high school do, is stupid shit like that, and that's how you go mainstream and get millions of views, get tons of subscribers, that's how you make a play. At the very worst, you're an asshole who took a prank too far. Yep. Like, I mean, those guys, even whatever his name is, the Paul guy who filmed the Suicide Forest in Japan or whatever.
Paul, brother Logan Paul was the one in the Suicide Forest.
Right, like that's probably the worst thing that people will ever know that he's done. It's something that can be chalked up to immaturity. At the most, you could just say this guy's an asshole who doesn't have any sort of empathy or morals or anything like that, whatever. But when it
Yep.
comes down to it, he's just one of those reality TV douchebags. Like,
Totally.
there's plenty of room for those guys in the mainstream. Why the fuck would anyone with half a brain, which I guess Baked Alaska didn't have, think the play to get clicks and to build this reality TV show-esque audience is to become a fucking neo-Nazi?
I don't know. I guess it was around the time that Trump was happening. I don't have any sympathy for these people, frankly, but when you look at their lives, they're just so sad and pathetic that you have to just think, it's like, God, they are people. I mean, and Baked especially is just Jesus Christ, man. I mean, I think it was just around Trump, and it was so easy during that time just to kind of get clicks and follows and views if you just said you were a Trump supporter. And he was in with Cernovich and all those people initially. They were all kind of in the same group, but then there was a split. And he had been making all these Jew jokes and talking about, Jews in the media, Baked Alaska had. And he made that break with Laura Loomer because he started making memes of her in gas chambers. And he just kind of, the people that accepted him, I suppose, were just were these neo-Nazi people. And he just kind of fell into it. And it's a sad story, right? I mean, it's a cringy stuff. And I hope he's doing well now. I saw a live stream of him somewhat recently where he was just kind of going down Hollywood Boulevard, and he, was doing the same sort of shtick, but he had it unlisted on YouTube because he doesn't want to get trolled. We had notifications on, so we saw it anyway. Yeah. So I mean, he's I don't know. That was Baked, and I guess the segue into kind of the next stuff for the Bernard Media stuff was just that there started becoming a lot more characters. And I was kind of starting to think of where, at first it was just going to be an archive site. I was like, where can we start archiving this stuff? Because then Pacific popped in, and we started doing some stuff on Pacific. And it was around November, October, when Cernovich had this press run where he was just in the press all the time. He did that NPR thing. It wasn't the 60 Minute stuff because that was earlier on.
Yeah. Was this around when he got Sam Cedar fired from MSNBC?
Yeah. Yeah, yep. Exactly. Yes, all that stuff. That was in November. I remember that because that was in November, and that started happening. And that's when I started actually reaching out to Sam and Michael and stuff. And I was like, "Yo, we have all this stuff. Use this website. Use these clips. Seriously, what you should take this seriously." And then the firing happened and all that. But he got that crazy press run of stuff happening. And around that same time, the Roy Moore stuff happened, and Pacific had doxed that woman who was, a Roy Moore victim. And so a lot more people just started being kind of there. And there was more videos that Vic was making, and people were starting to really send us footage and everything, and send us kind of tips and leaks. We would call them leaks because you could submit leaks on the sites. And I just wanted to have a place where we could aggregate everything in focus. And then, Bumble Jack happened. He got caught on Bumble. So that was kind of a viral thing.
For anyone who doesn't know, Bumble is a dating app. And I believe he is married with a pregnant wife, correct?
Yeah, she was pregnant. They had a kid. Now the kid is born. But during the time of the Bumble, when he was caught, on Bumble trying to cheat and then got banned subsequently from the platform, she was pregnant and everything during that time. It was just, God. It's
pretty crazy that a tech company like Bumble has a strict none of these assholes on our platform rule. They specifically came out and said we don't want people like this, specifically talking about his alt-right trolling fame, not just some married asshole. No, literally they knew he was this far-right winger and they didn't want him on their app. Yep. Cool how that can be done, but the platforms where these guys spread their shit, like Twitter and Facebook, apparently want to be hands off. Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nuts. And I mean, something cool about Bumble, not to go too deep on it, I think, obviously it's a female empowerment application. Women send the first message on Bumble and everything. And it was founded by a woman, Whitney Wolf, who she was a co-founder of Tinder, and then she had a relationship with one of the other co-founders of Tinder, this guy Justin Mateen, and she broke up with him while they were still working on Tinder, and she was really, really influential in kind of building up the initial base of Tinder users and everything. She did this university tour, and when she broke up with the guy Justin Mateen, he was really abusive, to her, and there's this whole slew of emails that came out from IAC because Tinder is owned by IAC.
Right.
And
I'm sorry. IAC is what were you saying?
Oh, IAC owns Tinder.
Right.
Like Tinder was made as kind of, it wasn't just some entrepreneurs or whatever that kind of launched Tinder. It was like a corporate venture that was started within the labs of IAC where they just churn out these ideas that could be interesting. And then they came up with this idea that if you swipe through old pictures of people, that's like something you can mimic with technology that was really kind of viral to people. And what could you apply that to? Dating. And so that was kind of the initial idea or whatever. And then all that stuff happened with Whitney and Justin Mateen. And then from that, Whitney Wolf said, fuck Tinder. She sued Tinder and won the lawsuit for a bunch of money because this guy abused her. That guy, Justin Mateen, got fired from the company. I think ultimately the CEO, Sean Rad, who was kind of complicit in the abuse of this woman, got fired as well. And then Whitney Wolf went off and founded Bumble. So like that's kind of at the core of like that experience that she had. At least that's her story that she goes out and tells to people.
Right.
So I mean, I think they're really they do a really good job of being in tune with people that could be misogynists or could be abusive to women. And if one of their users comes to them and says, "Hey, this is someone that could be really violating the community," then they'll take it seriously and remove them. So yeah, that had just happened. And right on the tail of that, we were already thinking about making a site where we could archive all these things. And then the leak for the Cernovich sex tape stuff got passed down to me.
Now let's talk about that because I wanted to go.
Message me when that first happened.
Right. Because I was like, I thought I knew everything about Cernovich. I was a Cernovich expert. And so when I'm presented online with a juicy, brand new piece of Cernovich content, something that is private, something that is not for public consumption, and you're telling me that you have it, hell yeah, I'm going to DM you. And so let's talk about that.
All right. So I got first off, let me say that wasn't just something that was concocted out of thin air off the top of my head or something, right? Like I went out, so I'll go through, I guess, just kind of the full story of it. So, I went out for drinks, and I'm not going to say, with who these people were, but I went out for drinks with two journalists in New York, right? And it was a couple other friends, but two people I had known on Twitter and was friends with. And so I went out and we were kind of talking about stuff and, they had seen Cernovich leaks and milk leaks and everything. And they were just talking about what they were covering and pretty much talking about stories that they couldn't write about, but they had heard about from people that were on the side of Cernovich and everything.
Right.
Specifically, Cassandra Fairbanks had been passing around some information. Right?
I was wondering where this stuff was coming from. She is, she's a whole nother story. I mean,
so take it with a grain of salt.
Right. I remember in, the Occupy Wall Street days when she was really starting to build a following as someone sympathetic to the Occupy Wall Street people. She, at the time, claimed she was a progressive.
Yep.
And I gotta say, I would see her stuff online, and I had no reason to believe this, no reason at all to have this feeling. But I had this feeling, so I stayed away. Something was always off about it to me. She always felt like she was trying too hard. And, again, that's just something that it was completely, objective. Just something that I was feeling. So I never said anything, never put her on the spot, never, no reason to. I just went out of my way when I would see her stuff, go through my feed, when I'm looking at the Occupy Wall Street hashtag to see what was happening when the police were doing when some sort of Occupy event, and I saw her, I would just read what she was writing and just to see, just as part of the whole chronological order of everything going on.
Yeah.
But I almost internally made it my duty to never share any of it, never at her, talk to her, mention her, because just something didn't feel right. And, fast forward to 2016, and she becomes a full-blown Trumper with the whole. She was one of the first people doing the OK sign, which they claim isn't really a white supremacist symbol, but for some reason it just always pops up when these guys all meet. I don't know, but yeah. So but let's not go off topic with her. But it's totally it completely makes sense now that I know that she's the one who spread this stuff.
And I wrote some pieces on Bernard Media saying that it was her and everything, right? So, and before, so basically I'm out of drinks, and this is like passed around in the beginning of the night, right? Like we're like talking, we hadn't drank that much, and this is like passed around. And I remember just thinking, I was like, oh my God, I have to tell Vic this tomorrow. He's going to think this is really funny. And then as the night went on and drank a little bit more, I was like, wow, what the hell? There like could be a Cernovich sex tape or something. That's actually fucking ridiculous, right? And so then, then I brought it up again at the table. And I was like, wait, it's like we talked about this earlier, but why are we not talking about this? Because this is something that's interesting to me, because they couldn't write about it or anything. Right. It's not something that could be covered. It's a rumor, right? Ultimately, it's a rumor. And so I was like, let's talk some more about this. And so then I got some more background on when it potentially happened, who it happened with, what was like the series of events that, was passed along of kind of how it happened. And, I went back that night and I was like, man, should do something with this, basically. Like this is, at this point, we've been doing Cernovich leaks. We've been kind of hanging them with their own words, but I had one viral tweet when the Bumble stuff happened with Bumble Jack and everything, where him and Paul Joseph Watson hit me up and accused me of, doctoring the account and said that, he filed this FBI report and everything, said it was all on me. Oh, I got this dog. I got these dogs coming in and everything.
Hey, puppy.
Yeah.
What kind of dogs?
You got two Australian Shepherd Poodle mixes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so they're both young puppies, very young. Go in there, go. Just going in a room. Go.
We need, sometimes on this show we've been talking for a good amount of time, and I'd love to go for a little bit longer if you have the time. A little bit. Yeah, we just need this a cute break. Some puppies on the feed, some dogs to break up the talk of alt-right trolls and sometimes literal white nationalists.
Yeah. So anyway, so this had all been passed to me. That night happens. I kind of like went back and I was like, okay. I remember being in the shower and just kind of started laughing to myself because like, oh my God, like this is so absurd, and it also just kind of encapsulates so much about these people of who they are and just the opportunism and just them not caring about anything aside from fame and like, oh, this person is cool, like they have a bunch of followers, so I'm going to go make a sex tape with this person because it could be something big, right? And how it was passed to me was that it was kind of blackmail and everything that could be used as informational warfare or whatever in the future, right? So I went back, I talked to Vic about it, we started thinking about what we could do with it and how we could release it, because it's not something you could really make into a video, right? And we're like, okay, well, we should probably, write out the story, right? And this isn't something that should be like a Twitter thread or something. And it was really Vic that had the idea, because it was like Cernovich Media there's Cernovich Media, and we're like, oh, haha, we can make Bernard Media. And so then we're like, let's do that. It'll be funny. We'll put it in there, and we'll kind of see after we put this out, what kind of happens as this goes. And so before we put out the story, I email Cernovich, right? Because we want to like clear the bases and everything, because it is a bit sordid and a little bit like fallacious. So like want to clear all the bases. So I email Cernovich, right? Because we have his email, and I get a reply from his lawyer, Mark Randazza, emails me back, right? Right. He doesn't reply to me. He reads this email is basically like, I said something like, hey, this rumor's been passed to me that you made a sex tape with a mistress. It happened within the last 18 months. Confirm this, essentially. And confirm this because I'm running a story on it. We're putting out this story. Confirm it. We want to quote from you. And Randazza gets back in touch and essentially says, in lesser words, like, Cernovich says you're an asshole. He doesn't have a mistress. But if there is a sex tape, it must be somewhat old material. So it's like, what the hell are you talking about? So is there, you know what I mean? So he botches the reply, and I just started laughing hysterically. And now we have this hilarious...
It'd be like if Trump came out and said, listen, there's no P tape, but if there was, it's not my piss. It's not my piss.
Exactly. So that's basically what he said. He's like, there's no tape, but if there is a tape, it's old material. And so, ridiculous. So you're basically saying there's a tape. And so we take that great quote, and then we go, and I have to talk to the other person in question, Laura Loomer, right? So I go, hey Laura, like I'm writing a story, and I think I could really use your input. It might involve you. And she messaged me back like almost right away, and she just goes, "Oh yeah, sure. Like, what's up? Like, you need a quote?" And so then, I ask her, I go, "Oh, like, did you make a sex tape with Cernovich?" And right away, she takes a second to reply. Then, and she goes, and definitely talks to Cernovich and everything. And she comes back with the reply, and she, it's like copy paste sort of thing of revenge porn and all this crazy stuff. And I was like, Jesus Christ. So we put out the story.
Just like the P tape, that tape is real. Without a doubt. That tape is real.
Shit's real. And so we put out the first story, and it gets out there for sure. We use the Bernard Media name and everything. And like it gets shared around decently widely. Like it gets read like tens of thousands of times, and it's like going around Twitter nicely. And they get super pissed. We keep the story going then because we start seeing more stuff that starts popping up. Like we see I then get another leak because then people start sending me these leaks about the story because it's the same sort of idea of like we drew this all back and like tie it together like Pizzagate or any of this stuff. It's an investigation and it's a rumor. So like people can go and find information that could tie into this. So people start to get engaged a little bit in the story and send me stuff that could prove, in the first story, we didn't say that Loomer was, the person in it. We left that open. So the next big mystery was, well, who else is in the tape, right? And so people want to find out who's in the tape. So they started sending us stuff of, it could be this person, it could be this person. We put out pictures from the alleged night where we badly blur some of the faces so you can see Cassandra Fairbanks' face kind of in Laura Loomer's face. And it's like, so it could be either of them, like, oh my God, this looks like Loomer, this looks like Fairbanks. And so we put out that stuff. We get some anonymous tips from anonymous tipsters that describe the video in question and everything that have seen the video and stuff. So we put out those videos, the anonymous tipster videos. And then we put out a story about how there was another rumor that went around, which again, this story also came from a legitimate journalist that was like, this is a rumor that I think could be legit because Loomer was going around doing a tour for the mass shootings. And it's like, where are you getting the money to go and do this tour? And people were thinking that it could be Cernovich that was bankrolling as we put it, her lavish lifestyle. And so we said,
lavish lifestyle, I like that.
That was the title of the article. It goes, it's like Mike Cernovich, because then I'm always emailing Cernovich to get quotes from him, right? And so I email him, I go, hey, like, are you bankrolling Loomer's lifestyle? If you don't reply to this, I'm going to assume that like you like deny it or something. And, so we put out an article that says Mike Cernovich denies bankrolling Laura Loomer's lavish lifestyle with a picture of them together or something, right? Like hugging or like, his arm around her where he looks wasted. And put that out. And we don't say it's Loomer quite yet, right? Like keep egging it on. And then, we put out a couple more stories like that are in that vein that are basically saying it's her. And then finally people are like asking, well, like, how did you get this information at this point? Because this was like going on a couple of weeks that we were putting out stuff like this consistently. We'd put out a new piece of information and, we would say that a massive BM scoop is about to drop or about to dump a massive BN scoop on the internet or something. And so it built up like a little bit of anticipation and everything for it. And then, I kind of needed to provide more context to exactly, because at this point I had messaged Loomer. She got super, super pissed at me in DMs and then blocked me because she was saying that, I'm soliciting revenge porn, that I'm sexually harassing her or something because there's all this crazy stuff, in the DMs. And so eventually I just was like, you seem totally unhinged. I'm not going to talk to you anymore. And so I stopped DMing her. And I was like, all right, we kind of got to put out, how we got this information, where this originated from, without giving up the source, but being like, this came from a legitimate place. This wasn't just concocted, right? Because people were really asking, where did this come from? And so, reached out to Cassandra Fairbanks to talk to her about this stuff. She basically told me to fuck myself. And
nice.
Exactly. And then, she was also like, is this satire? I was like, and then she asked also, she was like, she got confused at one point. I remember in the emails, which is really funny. She's like, "Are you saying that I made a sex tape with Cernovich?" And I was like, "Why would I say you made a sex tape with Cernovich?" And she was like, "Well, I would never do." She was like, "I was like, did you?" And then she was like, "Haha, no, I would never fucking do that." So I was like, "Aha!" Like, she hates this guy also. And so then, put out a story that kind of summed everything up at that point. And this was, we were posting it all on Bernard Media and stuff at this point. Or at least like the later stories we were putting on Bernard Media, because they got me banned from Medium because I posted a couple stories on Medium and they got me banned from there. But I put on a story that was like, Cassandra Fairbanks. I can't remember. It was like backtracks after, like, claims there's a Cernovich sex tape and then backtracks due to peer pressure or something. Right? Because people were really, like, they were like, "You're the source that gave this up." She was truly getting pressure from Cernovich, because she emailed me after we kept it going and said, "People think I'm your source. I'm starting to get pissed about this. I'm going to sue you for reckless libel," or something.
But she wasn't the only source, right? You'd heard it from others.
Oh, yeah. I mean, other people, this was also, then it came, when it started coming out, other people had heard this as well. And I started being like, oh, this is something that people know about,
right?
And so, like, she was the one, but she was ultimately the one that passed it down, through the ranks, that launched the initial kind of investigation into all this. She was the one, she was like the original. But then, like you said, there's other people that started sending stuff and saying, "We've heard this also," or, "I know about something similar." Or we know periphery, rumors and stories that this would make sense, like the bankrolling thing and everything. So, I mean, ultimately kind of we put out that last story and then, did some trolling kind of posts where I would say that, we would get a new piece of information and we would kind of weigh if we're going to put something else out. Because I didn't want, the Bernard Media stuff just to be this place where we post stuff about the sex tape constantly. Right. There was a lot of other people we could cover. There's stuff that we could do that would just be purely exposing them, that would be trolling them. There was other stuff that we could make, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that I guess kind of summed up that portion of it. And then, I guess these pieces kind of like then, I mean, I guess for the Bernard Media stuff, I mean, it turned into, after that, the site started getting traction and everything. It wasn't really until, I guess like 3 months ago that I started posting daily on the site, like 4 months ago. It was mostly on Twitter, but then, Vic and I were like, let's see the kind of, the Bernard Media stuff kind of started as a joke, and we started making, other content where we would use the Bernard Media brands. Like I went and interviewed a Cernovich superfan, right, where I went into this basement of my friend, and it was a written sketch, but it was real enough that I had to clear it up in that Rolling Stone piece that was satire and a written sketch.
Right.
But I interviewed a friend that I said was like a Cernovich superfan and stuff. But yeah, we just started making stuff, and it was a convenient place to put all these stories and cover anyone from Cernovich, Pacific to, the Ben Shapiros of the world and the Dave Rubins. But I guess that's kind of the sex tape was kind of, that story was the kickoff of Bernard Media, and how it kind of now is at a place where we put stuff out daily on the site, and we put all the videos that are made on, and posted directly to Twitter. We archive them there. So yeah, that was the start. That was the start of Bernard Media, and that sex tape story as well.
It's genius though, because you really are, trolling these guys in the same manners and the same methods that these guys that they use themselves. And it's easy to just call it all trolling, because really, you're the crux of it, I guess, is that you're going into the stuff to get at them, to bother them, to
yeah.
But it's not just trolling per se, in a sense that, like you mentioned, while some of it's satire and just to mess with them, there's another good portion that's actually real things that you've uncovered, obviously specifically uncovered to get to them, to get at them, but real and newsworthy and legitimate nonetheless.
Exactly. And I mean, there's stuff that, there's funny. I hope that people also find it entertaining, and that there is some stuff that you just go on there and you could watch the video of, Mike Cernovich screws the pooch on InfoWars, and that you could just kind of laugh at it. Or, one that they included in the Rolling Stone piece was Dave Rubin is the least funny person alive, focus group confirms, right? And so it's like that focus group is me and like two of my friends looking at a computer. That's a focus group, right? So, I mean, it's worded in a funny way of like checking it out and looking at it. But, I hope that, he is unfunny. And he, like, is he a stand-up comedian? Was he ever a stand-up comedian? That's another potential investigation for like a Bernard Media thing. So I mean,
but I actually think, I think a lot of people overlook the idea of this stuff being funny, and think, how is this stuff funny, or why should this stuff be funny? And I think the genius to what Vic Berger has done, what you do, what Todd Dracula has done, stuff that I've done, anyone who's in this world where you're doing politics and trying to be entertaining and funny while doing it, it's super important, if you ask me, because the majority of people just aren't in this media, political news bubble.
Exactly.
And if you can draw them in by entertaining them while telling them about this stuff, then what's the harm? They're gonna absorb it. First of all, they're gonna watch it to begin with, which, with so many different types of media out there, from Netflix to random silly YouTube videos to cable TV, whatever. You're competing with this stuff. People only have a certain amount of time. Entertain them, bring them in, make them laugh, but tell them about these guys, teach them about these guys, make sure they know what's going on, and I don't see how it's not a win-win for everyone involved.
You hit the nail on the head. I mean, that's like, I think an entry point for a lot of this stuff is watching a funny video or something. Maybe it's the Mike Cernovich screws the pooch, info on InfoWars video that you see. But then you can, if you go through the different articles and stuff, there's hundreds of, pieces that we've written on the site now. There's hundreds of videos that you could go through, and you can learn a lot more about these people. And I think, even doing, and why these pieces kind of popped out and everything just recently over these last couple of days, which has been cool. But like, I hope that, people look at those pieces and there's a lot of education to do around who these people are and how they operate. And if, seeing how we kind of troll the trolls or whatever is a way to educate people on more about who these people are, which is a serious thing. They are unintentionally funny. Vic gave a quote to Daily Beast, and he was like, these people are unintentionally funny. We find them unintentionally funny, but there's also morons that follow these people vehemently and will do their every beck and call. So it's super important to understand that as well, that there is a danger to these people, and we can laugh at them and we can mock them, but there's a seriousness to what's going on with these people. The fact that Cernovich just got this guy fired, it's like that's enough in and of itself. And I think there's that group, and there's also the Shapiros and the Rubins and everybody that, are super concerning, because as we touched on kind of earlier, you can almost legitimize yourself by looking at them and saying, well, I'm not them, right? And so, I'm not Cernovich, Shapiro can say, or I'm not Jack Posobiec, or I'm not Alex Jones, and I'm certainly not the Proud Boys or something. And I actually showed up to Vic's house from stupid videos that we had made. Right. So there's real truths, and those articles kind of touched on them, of like, you can put out this story about the sex tape or something, or you can put out funny videos where it was like the Proud Boys, but real truths come from doing those things, of how these people react to them.
Absolutely.
Right? And threats that they make behind the scenes, which are legal threats, which are the Proud Boys even showing up to Vic's house. And that says a lot about those people. So if it's just watching a video and then suddenly you start kind of taking note of them, and maybe you read a couple more BM articles or something, a lot of them will be funny. And I hope they are funny, and I hope that they make people laugh, but I also hope that people look a little bit deeper past them. And in every single article that's written, there's at least a preface to kind of explaining, like we did one on Randazza today, right? And there was kind of a preface about him. The article was about, him bombing this MMA. It was like, neo-Nazi loving lawyer defends Cernovich and has a disastrous AMA or something, And in the beginning, it was all about how he's defending, Alex Jones in the Sandy Hook case, how he was Cernovich's lawyer and Andrew Anglin's lawyer. So even if it's just a 500-word piece, you can at least get that information, go click on another link, read another article, and then also read about how he bombed the AMA, right? And, like, that's funny, just people trolling him. Right. But at least you can glean some more information. So, a lot of these articles said that we were using their tactics against them, and a lot of that is true, but it's with, like, comedy. And, like, there is comedy involved in these things, and that's the big difference, I think.
And they're not in on the joke. That's
laughing at them, and no one likes to be laughed at, and no one likes to be made fun of. Whether it's Dave Rubin saying, "Dude, you're incredibly unfunny, like you're not a comedian," or it's Ben Shapiro saying, "Dude, you're 5 feet tall," and photoshopping a picture, or if it's Cernovich, there's a whole wealth of things you can say about him.
And
So I mean, it's that sort of stuff, and no one likes that, and it rubs them the wrong way, and it distracts them from going and doing things that could be incredibly damaging. So I think the better that Cernovich should only be talking about his sex tape. Bumble Jack should only be talking about how he definitely didn't cheat on his wife on Bumble. Shapiro should only be talking about how he's definitely 5'9".
Right.
Ruben should only be talking about how he's actually funny. Right?
It disempowers them. It takes it away. Yeah, it takes away their platform, their power, their concentration on other stuff. It totally distracts them, and I think that's really one of the most important things you could do. One of the best ways to get at these guys, because at the very least, just look at what the more traditional ways that other that progressives have tried to combat these guys, and it just doesn't work.
It's reactionary. People,
right.
They do something and then you react to it. But if you have new things and you are creative, which like the people that worked at Cafe and myself or Vic or Todd or any of these people, it's more of a creative thing. We don't see it as, it's not a political thing. We're not political pundits. I'm not going to be the person that's going to tell you about what policies should be implemented, but we can create something that's interesting and new that they wouldn't be expecting, right? And because of that, there's no preparation for it, and you're being proactive in doing it. They're not getting James Gunn fired, then you're writing 1,000 think pieces about why that's a bad thing. And some of those are important, right? But it's also important to be proactive and not just reactionary to what they do. And that's, part of what we do as well. That's
a really great point. And Nathan, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. At Nathan T. Bernard on Twitter, bernardmedia.org. I got to say, I still don't have Jack Posiev, whatever the hell. I can never say his last name. I don't have it down yet.
I don't know.
This has literally been must be 8 episodes running now, where every time I say I'm going to get it right, still don't have it. I've actually reached out to Vic recently. He's going to be on this show. He's busy now. I know he's doing things.
He's moving too.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah. So he's very busy right now. And but he will be on this show, so listeners, that there'll be more to this story with Vic, and I hope to have you on again, man, for real. Oh, and I think my favorite thing in that profile, best way to end this interview, is when you were asked actually, do you feel bad ever about some of these things you put out there? And I just loved what you said. I just loved it. The idea that maybe for a split second you do, before you post something, think to yourself, this guy, he's got a wife, he's got a kid, in terms of Cernovich. Should I post this? And then in that split second, at the same time, you think about literally everything he's done to people, many people with wives and kids, much worse. You're just putting stuff out there that, that's basically egging him on or poking him, annoying really when it comes down to it. Nothing that's going to ruin his life and ruin his life in terms of following him around and destroying his career and his livelihood or anything like that. But this guy's got no problem doing that sort of stuff. So fuck it, do it. Get these guys, bother these guys, get under their skin.
Exactly. Yep. I mean, that's truly how I feel. And I think, everyone is human. So you'll think about these things, and, as a human, you have a sense of morality and you have a belief system. So regardless, when that happened, you think about it, but ultimately, like you said, you think about all the things that, you putting out this piece, is that going to counterbalance any of that? And because they lie and do misinformation and all this nonsense, it doesn't make it okay for us to do it. But it also means that there's a space there in that same place that they've carved out to create propaganda, that you can create art and you can create creative things. And hopefully you can make people laugh and entertain people. So, that's, hopefully, as we keep doing Bernard Media, it's super early doing it. So, hopefully we figure out more of it and can be effective and do something good.
Nathan Bernard, bernardmedia.org. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Doomed, and I hope to have you on again real soon.
For sure, man. It was great talking. Thanks for having me.
All right, take care.
About dogs, too.
Oh, don't worry about it. Love dogs, so it's all good.
Cool, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye. All right, folks, on the YouTube live stream and listening to the podcast when this goes up, I will read some comments in the YouTube feed. And like I said, patreon.com/Matt Binder. Support this show for as little as $5 a month that sustains the weekly episodes that I do. It is the reason why I started doing the YouTube live stream version of the podcast. And very soon I will start doing at least one patron only episode a month. And in that episode, what the format will likely be is I'll log on to YouTube live stream. I will start a stream just like this one, and you guys will comment, and I'll set up systems so you guys could call in, and we'll deal just with that. Maybe just at the very top of things while people are coming in, and while members are coming into the feed to give them all time to get in. I'll cover a story that's in the news or something I've been talking about on Twitter, and that's how it'll run. And basically that'll all start. I feel like it's been going on forever, but we literally we gain a patron or two, and then we lose a patron or two. We gain a patron or two, we lose a patron or two. So let's get it up to that goal, that halfway point for the goal. And we'll get it started. Also, you can support this show by subscribing to the YouTube channel. Easiest way to find it is doomed.tv. The podcast can be found at doomedpod.com. Search for the podcast on iTunes to subscribe to it. And while you're on iTunes, if you haven't already, go to iTunes and leave a review. I'm not going to tell you to leave a 5-star review, but I'd prefer you leave a 5-star review. I actually had someone who I believe was a 5-star review change it to a 4-star review and leave a comment that said, and completely fine to do, this is his opinion, or his or her opinion, I completely value it, saying that would be a 5-star podcast, except for the fact that ever since I started doing the YouTube live stream, the podcast is a little bit annoying to listen to because the guest sometimes falls, the connection falls. Again, that's something that's sort of out of my control with the live stream specifically. That has to do with the Skype and or YouTube connection between me and the guest, which I don't control. It also sometimes doesn't even have to do with my connection at all. The guest could be somewhere where they just have bad internet. But I will definitely try to do a better job in at least editing that out for the podcast, because I definitely know how much more annoying that stuff can be when it's audio only. So I will definitely be more aware of that, and I'll try to fix that for the people who have been annoyed by that. And I don't think anything like that happened in this episode, though. We had a good connection, so there we go. There's that. Okay, let's go to some comments. My dad says, "Great show, Matt. I actually was able to grasp about 75% of that." That's good. That's good. Always want to make sure the boomers at least that's what I'm aiming for. At least 75% of the show must be understandable by men and women of my parents' age. I did notice in the feed earlier, I don't know if he's still here, I think this show, the Doomed live stream, has had its first YouTube right-wing troll. I saw him in there, and he was, doing the usual YouTube troll stuff, bringing up men's rights activism and saying misogynist stuff. And I did appreciate him pulling up the old MRA favorite of theirs, where they love that very early, probably one of the first times I ever hosted the Majority Report, filled in for Sam with Michael, when I was talking about the men's rights conference many, many, many years ago. And I mentioned the very true line where it wasn't very long ago that women in this country were viewed as chattel. And I guess maybe they thought it was meme-worthy because, again, very early in my media on-screen career. So I probably said it funny. Probably was a little bit overly excited to be on camera. But in terms of the content of what I said, I have always been on top of that. I do not take any of that back. I stand by it 100%. So, yeah. In fact, in many ways, women in this country are still viewed as chattel. So, let's see. Louis Carlos, who, by the way, I got a shout out because I noticed today that he saw that we were $1 away, I assume, from a round number on the Patreon. So he upped his $5 monthly donation on the Patreon page to $6, just to make that number a nice round numero. I was gonna say numero uno, but that's not the case. I don't know what it's. I'm tired. It's late on a Thursday, end of the week. As you guys know, I'm doing a ton of things right now. Also, I gotta give another shout out because I saw them talking about in the Discord. That's right, the Doomed Discord. That what's taking Matt so long to jump into the Doomed Discord that we set up for him? His invite is sitting there. In fact, the original invite expired. We got to send him a new one. He's a busy guy, I guess. He's been very busy lately. So yeah, Jacob and Jameson, shout out to them for sure for setting up the Doomed Discord, for being very patient with me in getting in there. I had promised I would not pull a celebrity move like Michael Brooks and only be available at certain times on certain dates. You got to schedule a meeting with my people to talk with me. And I sort of did not get on top of the Discord. But now that I'm in there will be no self-important douchebaggery. I just like pushing Michael Brooks' buttons. But yeah, the next thing I will do, which I hope to do within the next 24 hours, because right after this I am logging off and taking a few minutes to relax. I will connect the Discord to the Patreon page, so everyone who's a paying member of this show can be in there, and we will be in touch with each other via Discord all the time, and it'll be fun. So Luis Carlos, let's get to his question while I rambled on for that long. Matt, question. I myself have a beard and will soon be traveling via airplane. Would you recommend I shave my beard so as to not attract unwanted attention? Listen, I mean, I don't travel very much, but the last time I was on a plane, I did have a beard, and I guess I did get pulled over by TSA and got a bit of extra search. Yeah, I think you're right. Keep the beard though. Yeah, it's worth it. Let's see. Kami says logging off is for cowards and people with good lives. That's true. I never technically log off, but sometimes while I'm logged in, I'll step away. How about that? Jesse Cool. I do want to also shout out to give Michael Brooks some props here. Everyone knows we're good friends. That's why I always get his goat. This is I think we hit many dozens of YouTube live streamers. Again, the stream is fairly new. This is the 26th episode of Doomed, actually. I forgot to mention it was the big old 25th episode last time around. But this is the 26th episode of Doomed, which means we've officially been around. Doomed, the podcast, has officially been around for half a year, 6 months. The first episode was the middle or towards the end of January with Ashley Feinberg of Huffington Post. And then kicked right off with her, and then had Krang T. Nelson from Twitter on, Will Summer on, right when Right Victor, his great right-wing newsletter that tracks those guys, was really starting to hit it off. So it's been a lot of fun doing this, and I'm glad I'm still able to get some of these great guests. I mean, I think that's the one thing this show has been, I'm very proud of, if anything. You know, that people, I guess, see that I'm particularly, have, grown into this beat and was around there. The beat, has grown, and I was one of the people who were early on this, these right-wing, fringe right-wingers, this new right from, the dark web folks like Jordan Peterson and Dave Rubin, to the far right guys like Mike Cernovich, to the conspiratorial guys, Alex Jones, all these guys. So I'm really happy that got some great guests to come on the show. That I'm proud of. I'm usually a humble person, but that I'll pat myself on the back. I'm the most humble person. Kami, Michael Shook, get him, Matt. Yeah, I gotta hand it to Michael though. He's a much better self-promoter than I am. I mean, the Michael Brooks show is far and away many steps ahead of this show, simply because many reasons, I'm sure. Michael is very smart, very funny. I hope you all think I am too. Maybe not as smart or funny, but he is a very good self-promoter. No shame in that guy. So he is able to, prop himself up and convince people like a used car salesman to to donate and spend money on his show. I've always been really bad at promoting myself like that. I shouldn't be bad at it, but I am. If anything gets out, I guess that should be the thing that comes out of this episode. Other than the cool stuff that we were talking about with Nathan, if anything in this half where I just talk with you guys, make sure everyone knows that I called Michael Brooks promoter skills very used car salesman-esque. Kami, Matt, get that Soros money. Listen, someone should be funding me. I don't understand why not. Whoever's giving Media Matters and Right Wing Watch money, which, by the way, both organizations great. They should be getting that money. Someone should give me a small percentage of whatever that is so I could ramp this up. I think I'm just as good doing what I do in the small amount of time I'm able to allot to this as any of the people following this stuff. And shout out to the great people who do follow this at Media Matters. I know there's some great people there. And at Right Wing Watch specifically, I'd like to shout out Jared Holt, who's been on this show. He's great. Louis Carlos. No one is as good at self-promotion as Alex Jones at self-promotion. Yeah, he's really good at what he does all around. And what I mean by that as an on-screen personality. He's terrible at what he does in terms of hurting people the way he does. But it's too bad this guy doesn't realize that he could probably be making he probably had to put in a lot more work, but he'd probably make a lot more money if he wasn't who he is. Too late for that now, but yeah. Kami says sell vitamins. I should sell vitamins. I mean, look at Alex Jones. I mean, you could definitely. The camera just went out of focus, so I was trying to fix that. I mean, Alex Jones sells vitamins, where he claims he's the ultimate male now and as healthy as can be. And I mean, if you just look at him, I would say he's not the ultimate male and definitely not as healthy as can be. So maybe I should sell some sort of muscle juice or something, some gorilla mindset pills. I did see some really good YouTube comments earlier in the show, but I gotta say, this is one of the fastest the YouTube comments have ever been scrolling, because you guys have been constantly interacting in the comment section since the very beginning of this feed, an hour and 30 minutes ago. So I can't go back. I can't even find some of the stuff I wanted to bring up. So if you have any questions, comments, now's the time. I'm going to end the show in a second. Binder Enhancement says Oxy, who I think is Jacob, right? Yeah. Binder's super hair growth formula. That's true. I definitely have more hair than most people who are probably even younger than me. It's real. Some people have wondered, because sometimes my hair is not always, sometimes when it gets to a certain length, it just isn't as voluminous, and it just sits there, especially during the majority report days where I would, wake up early and have to go in to travel to where the studio was, and I just didn't really care about how my hair was looking. So some of the trolls on the feed would be like, yeah, that looks fake. No, that's real hair there, guys. I don't have. I mean, I'm sure eventually it'll be you'll see some receding, some of it. See, maybe even you can see a little bit now. Maybe, who knows? I'm getting up there, 31. But yeah, I should sell the hair vitamin pills. Yeah, we had this guy Ben who asked permission from me to post some stuff. I didn't say anything because I assumed who asked permission to post something. Little did I know there would be a paragraph coming in every second. He did stop when I asked him to, though. which means maybe he wasn't technically a troll. Maybe he was just someone. Maybe he was a spammer, someone who just wanted to get that stuff out there, but kind enough to stop when he realized it wasn't being appreciated. I could respect that. I won't ban someone like that. If you listen, when people say that you're being annoying in the YouTube comments, I'll give you a pass. I'm nice like that. Lednerg gets even more hairy during the full moon. Louis Carlos doomed vitamin D. Maybe that's the way to promote it. Vitamin doomed. Jesse Cool, you skipped my question while promoting your show and explaining how bad you are at promotion. That is how bad I am at promotion, that I would do that to you. What was your question again? Oh, there you go, Jesse Cool, I found it, and I will get to it for sure right now. Who are the most dangerous? The international dark web, IDW types, or the Cernos in terms of politics and public policy? Yeah, I would say each in their own right in certain ways. I would say Cernovich on a personal level is more damaging to the people he's decided are his enemies in that point in time, who he goes after. I mean, we've seen it with Sam Cedar. We've seen it with James Gunn. If he decides to go after someone, he will do everything he can to collect the scalp. But I do believe that on a broader scale, like I've talked about on this show many times, when it comes to me, young, mostly white men who are coming out of high school, coming out of college, or have been out of school for a while, maybe they're even as old as in their 30s, maybe even 40s, but just like lost people, just like people who just have not found their way and have very moldable minds. They're very open to hearing how they can better themselves, and they're looking for someone to blame on how their lives have gone. That's where the intellectual dark web comes in, and that's where they are especially dangerous. And they're the ones who are doing the real recruiting of people who probably would not be right-wingers generally. So I think each in their own right are dangerous. But Cernovich, more dangerous for the particular people, the specific people he goes after, and the IDW on a broader scale, I guess you can say. Hope that makes sense. Malleable. That's the word I was trying to think of. 10-foot man. Thank you. Malleable minds. Thank you. And listen, I'm not even necessarily saying you need to feel bad for these young white men. I'm not saying I feel bad for them, or at least all of them. I mean, some of them, I'm sure, have particularly sad stories that you can feel bad for. But no, I mean, to scapegoat minorities or women or people in poverty or anyone for your problems is bullshit. And to fall for these guys telling you to fall for that shit is, it's on you. But at the same time, I do think there's a good portion of those people. I'm not even talking about electorally. Fuck them electorally. We don't need them electorally. We should be focused on people who don't usually go out and vote. People who are open to progressive policy. People who are open to leftist ideals without any convincing. All you need to do is convince them that get out and vote. There's people to vote for who will get those things that you're open to. That's who we should focus on for the vote. But what I'm talking about is literally if we want to help people who necessarily wouldn't be bad, who wouldn't be good people if they were around the right people. If you have a friend like that, a family member like that, who you don't think is a lost cause, that's the type of person I'm talking about when I'm talking about the people who are worth paying attention to, who the intellectual dark web are going after, and the far right wingers are going after, and alt-right is going after, and white nationalists, and white supremacists, and Nazis go after. Annoying people in the YouTube comments is why you chat in the Discord's live discussion room. Yeah. But Jesse Cool, I just want to thank you for pointing out that I ignored your question, because I'm happy I got to it, because I think that was a great question. I hope you're not mad at me that I ignored it. I really feel bad about it, actually. As I was talking about what bad self-promoter I am, patreon.com/MattBinder, iTunes, leave the review, doomwithpod.com, and doom.tv, subscribe to YouTube there. Theo, what do you think is a reasonable ETA for the Cernovich documentary? I'm not. Is that the one that Sam is working on? I have nothing to do with that. No one's asked me about that yet. I mean, it would seem kind of obvious for them to at least interview me for it, right? I mean, or ask me a couple of questions for their material, their sourcing of it. But I think that's film guy Matthew who's working on it. So, you should have a link to your Patreon in the video description. I should, Jacob. Patreon.com/MattBinder should be in the description of this YouTube channel, Doomed.tv, for this video version of the episode, the podcast episode that will go up on doomedpod.com. Absolutely. Absolutely. You should remind me on Twitter @MattBinder. And the Discord, of course. You should remind me on there too. Kami, I have to turn my grandpa's TV from Fox to MSNBC constantly. Running Man, Michael Cohen opinions. I think people are jumping to his side in terms of him being a changed man a little bit too quickly. Especially this whole weird Tom Arnold thing, where Tom Arnold himself is, I think he's, wherever, as, whether he's on our side or whatever, and if you think he's doing he's trying to do the right thing or whatever, it's just a little bit bizarre, a little bit, self-serving. If he ends up doing something in terms of uncovering something, I'll be happy to eat those words and more power to him. But I'll still stand by the fact that a lot of it was, just like a play for, his show and everything, which is fine. But I think, unfortunately, the hashtag resistance is really, really putting a lot of faith in Tom Arnold taking down the president of the United States. 10-foot man, will Lakers be any good? No idea. And the final comment of the episode, and a lot of people out there to say, making the Mike Cernovich comment in the YouTube stream tonight. Jameson, who do you think among the characters like Cernovich doesn't get enough attention? That's a good one. And you know what? I probably have been thinking recently. I feel like I have, about certain guys who I like to focus on, who I think are flying under the radar, but are amassing. There's a few, I can't think off the top of my head their names, but there's a few of those Trump brown nosers, those Trump bootlickers on Twitter. They look pretty young. I think like one of them is like Scott Pressler or something like that, with the long hair. And there's another one who's like a father and son duo who just literally are like not even falling into just Trump defense 24/7 for anything he does. They're totally on board with like Vladimir Putin being their hero and everything. Just bizarre. I think those guys, I think they're gaining a little bit more traction, because like Nathan, we were talking with Nathan before. A lot of these guys over the past year or so have fallen out of the limelight because of their own actions. So a lot of the more, I'm not going to say innocent, but the less troll-like MAGA people are starting to sort of become more prominent in that world. Jameson, fucking spotlight. Theo says, yeah, give a shout out to lesser known fascists. Jameson, fucking spotlight these fuckers, in response to Theo. They shouldn't be able to hide. Jesse says, LOL, Theo, yes. Well, I mean, listen, I get both sides of this. I think if they're already rising, you could try to nip it in the bud. I mean, if I see someone with like, small amount of followers, whatever, I mean, listen, I had the Kent State gun girl, Caitlin, from Turning Point USA on this show early on when she had a couple hundred Twitter followers. When I was trying to get some dirt on Turning Point USA when she had a falling out with them. I didn't give her the platform. I think I thoroughly came out on top in that debate we had. But you can't stop these right-wing grifters. Much like, what's his face? Dr. Malcolm whatever. I can't think of the actor's name right now. From Jurassic Park. I can't believe I'm having this mental block. Just like he says in Jurassic Park, life finds a way. These right-wing grifters will find a way. I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. I gotta look this up. This is just embarrassing. Unbelievable. I can't believe no one in the chat feed is helping me out. Jeff Goldblum. My God, I can't believe I forgot Jeff Goldblum's name. I honestly, listen, I'm tired. I'm going to chuck it up to that. I'm exhausted. All right, let's go right here. Theo says, I destroyed her. You can say that, but I can't. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. See you all next time. Ian Malcolm, by the way, was the doctor. It was Jeff Goldblum's character on Jurassic Park. Dr. Malcolm, yes. Thank you, Kevin Tipcorn. All right, everybody. One of the biggest YouTube live stream audiences we've had since doing this. Peaked at many, and I don't even know what it peaked at. It was impressive for how little this stream has been around and how few subscribers the stream has right now. See you on Discord, as Jameson says. Yes, absolutely. Talk to you guys all next time on Doomed. Love you, Bindi. Bye, says Theo. I'll end with that. I'll say it one more time. See you all next time on Doomed.